Israel Adesanya is a world-class mixed martial artist and kickboxer, and has already built a legacy as an all-time great in not only the middleweight division, but the entire UFC. There's a reason he's number 2 pound for pound right now, and with his upcoming trilogy fight against rival Alex Pereira, I want to take a deeper look into what makes the last Stylebender great. So without further ado, let's dive into it. It's no surprise that the first thing that comes to mind when people think about Israel Adesanya is his striking. I mean, you don't become a world-class kickboxer for nothing. We've seen throughout Izzy's MMA career him showcasing superiority over decent talent, but also world-class strikers in the UFC. He does such an excellent job at making the complexities of striking look so simple, but once you get in there with them, you're left confused and lost as to how you'll win. Here's some key points I found that makes Israel Adesanya's striking so special. Controlling distance and finding range is one of the most important skills in all of combat sports. After all, the name of the game is to hit your opponent and to not get hit. So to say Israel Adesanya is good at it is a bit of an understatement. We see Izzy start to find his range with hand fighting and feints, just throwing out light jabs or pawing at the opponent, letting them come into range and changing angles. We see a lot more technical fighters start slower and even give away rounds, such as Peter Yan or Chito Vera. Once these fighters find that range though, they feel safe to start throwing and setting up traps. I'm sure most people have heard the sport referred to as a chess match, and that's for good reason, because early in the fight, you're analyzing your opponent. Their speed, different looks, tendencies, and you're throwing little things out there to see how they react. A good example of this is the Paulo Costa fight. Watch as Izzy gets massive reactions out of Paulo just from small feints and peppering shots.
Back and forth. A left kick is sneaky there from Costa. Closes the distance quickly. Starting to really get ready.
We see Izzy use these feints to feel out the range and also keep Paulo reactionary. Once Izzy starts finding his range and making reads, he sees that Costa is very reactive to jabs and most other feints he's throwing, so he starts chopping at the legs. The fight with Paulo is such a great example of how nasty leg kicks can be if you use them effectively. I mean, talk about completely shutting down an opponent. Izzy noticed a weakness, and by the end of the first round, Paulo's leg was completely dead. It's crazy too, because normally throwing leg kicks naked with no setup is dangerous and you could get checked or countered, but not with Izzy. He utilizes his length and fantastic range finding ability so well that he can just time these kicks and fire them off. I mean, this is just a thing of beauty.
90 seconds gone by round 2, is firing on all.
He's just so calm out there too, always focused on the opponent, trusting in himself. He rarely overreacts, and he begins to frustrate the opponent. We go back to the Paulo fight again because it's just such a fantastic showcase of Izzy's talents. Paulo knows this range isn't working, and the work Izzy's putting in banking the leg kicks has started to take effect. The constant movement and feinting is overwhelming, and Paulo is clearly getting frustrated. He starts taunting Izzy to get him emotional, and we've seen Yoel Romero try the same thing. Paulo tries to rush in and close the distance, making the fight wild, but Izzy always stays composed. He gets back to range and eventually finds his shot when Paulo rushes in, ending the fight. His insane length advantage over most fighters makes the range much more important in the fight, since almost no one to this point has been able to successfully close the distance on a consistent basis. The other component to finding range is once you do, you gotta be able to utilize it. Again, when it comes to these aspects of striking, there's almost no one better. We've seen him dominate Paulo Costa by keeping range, leaving Paulo stationary and just picking him apart with kicks. But what Izzy does even better is letting people try to enter in and using his incredible dexterity and movement to slip their shots and counter with his own. He has an awareness of foot placement and ability to slide around that you'd only gain through the amount of experience he has in kickboxing and combat sports. You can teach a fighter the technique behind proper movement and not putting yourself into bad positions, but you can't teach a lot of Izzy's skill set because it's a mix of mental knowledge of himself from years of training and fighting and just knowing his body, but also most people can't do the things Izzy can physically. Watching him enter the Matrix, as he likes to call it is amazing and something only a few select fighters have the capability to do.
Seems to be comfortable in the stand-up.
His footwork is huge.
Backing up and watching. It's not going to be to his benefit.
Although not everyone could do stuff like that, anyone trying to learn or improve their boxing or stand-up should watch Izzy. His use of head movement and working angles. It's hard to push Izzy up against the fence unless he lets you, but even when you do get him up against the fence, he shows off his elite movement, not allowing himself to get hit cleanly, if at all. Now, I want to show you something that I think just perfectly encapsulates Izzy's striking game. Here's his fight against Anderson. Now, we rarely see Izzy out of position, but right here he goes for what looks to be a question mark kick and leaves himself out of position once he stops. Maybe he didn't like the angle, or he thought he was a bit too close to execute it, but either way, Anderson immediately realizes this and how close he is to be in that position and goes on the chase. Now, having a striker like Anderson Silva after you is never good, but Izzy executes this chase down wonderfully. A little bit of hand fighting there we just seen, but look at where Izzy's eyes are. Even when he's on the run, always locked in, he always sees the danger coming. Now, we get to see some of Izzy's movement here, shuffling along the fence, throwing counters, slipping out of range. That was a nice counter right there. Now, as Anderson's closing this distance, I want you to watch something. Izzy's locked in. Anderson looks like he's about to close in and take a shot. And what do we see? Bang, beautifully timed knee. Now Anderson just manages to get out of the way of this, but where does this leave him? Izzy just set him up. Anderson's legs completely squared. Anderson standing straight up, his hands are low, and what happens next? Bang! Izzy bangs over a right hand and rocks Anderson. Just a beautiful time setup there. And this is why Izzy is so great. Even when he's on the defense, he's always setting up shots. Israel is a master at finding openings and putting the opponent in bad positions. We've seen this against Robert Whittaker too. Izzy used his movement and put Robert in a near defenseless position 2 times in their first fight. Almost identical setups too, both finishing with the hook. The second time, Israel became the champ. Just incredible stuff to watch, as Robert Whittaker and Anderson are 2 of the best strikers in middleweight history. So to see Izzy force them into mistakes and hurt them is such a testament to how classy he is. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to Izzy's striking is the diversity which he uses to attack. His nickname, the Stylebender, while a good anime reference, is also true with his skill set. Coming into MMA as a world-class kickboxer, Izzy learned and improved his skill set so much with MMA rules. He was incredibly dangerous before, but he's just on a different level now. He's excellent at switching ranges, landing devastating knees and elbows, using his stature to find shots in the clinch, change levels, land kicks. He really is a complete fighter. Watch him get into range here on Anderson and grab wrist control. He uses this to land a beautiful elbow and then gain head control and land a knee straight up the middle. Here's a few clips from Izzy's first fight in the UFC. Even in his debut, he's so dangerous. We see him in this finishing sequence against Rob Wilkinson, just pouncing on him like a lion. Izzy's pace and pressure was constantly wearing him down from stuffing the takedowns. Once he senses that, he just jumps on him. But Izzy over the years has grown so intelligent, even in finishing sequences like these. On the attack, we see Izzy constantly giving different looks and trying to overwhelm him. He's banging knees up the middle, going to the body, changing angles, waiting for him to duck his head, countering shots. It's really excellent stuff, and it's incredible to watch this early in his career. Now, if there's one thing to be improved in the Champs game, I'm sure a lot of people could agree it would be his grappling technique. Adesanya showed some holes in that area. It primarily shined through in that light heavyweight bout with Jan. While his technique wasn't enough to overcome the move up in weight class, he's had plenty of success at middleweight with defensive grappling and takedown defense. Let's look at a few clips that showcase why he's so successful in his division. Alright, so here's a clip from the Vettori fight. Vettori enters on a nice double and gets his hands actually locked on the fence. I mean, normally with a guy like Vettori, this would be a pretty solid takedown, but we see Izzy working with his length to try to separate those hands, and Vettori goes for a trip initially. Doesn't work because Izzy's clamped down. Alright, so Vettori's got his hands locked. He goes to pull him off the fence here, which with his hands locked normally would be a pretty good takedown, but Izzy's so lengthy that he's able to just sprawl out during the takedown. While he's getting back up, Vettori goes for a back take here, but Izzy is so aware that he's able to just hold his position there, prevent the back take, get back to position. He gets the overhook, and then he just posts off on his shoulder and sneaks out the side. Beautiful work from Adesanya, and his length definitely helped a lot with that takedown. Here we are later in the same fight. Vettori manages to get Izzy down with a beautiful pull off the fence and successfully gets the trip. But Izzy, right here, tries to post up. Vettori keeps him down, but using his length and how long his legs are, he just takes this foot position on the fence, locks down the posture, and then bang, pushes off and sweeps. We see him do the same thing in the Wilkinson fight. Rob hits a well executed trip right here to get Izzy down, and Izzy immediately gets back up. So I found this especially fascinating because this was just special levels of physicality and athleticism. Izzy loves this post right here, just holding up, using his length. He uses it a lot to get back up. So again, he's controlling posture on his post, and pretty much just with his arm as a leverage point, he's able to post up and get up tall enough to wrap his back leg around the back of Rob and force a get up because he's threatening an armbar or a back take. It's really just incredible stuff with his length and physicality, and stuff you can't really see out of most fighters. As we can see, just another reason why Izzy had such a fast rise to the top despite being relatively new to MMA from kickboxing. Although the technique isn't always great, especially early in his career, with him being so big for the weight class, he's able to get out of these positions using pure physicality. So it makes sense why Jan would have more success controlling position on the ground, since the size and length discrepancy isn't really there. However, this is a possible weakness in his game. I don't really foresee Alex Pereira shooting a double leg on Saturday, but you never know. In summary, Israel Adesanya has risen to the heights of combat sports greatness through a mix of incredible physical advantages, as well as a world-class dedication to the craft, becoming one of the most complex and diverse strikers and all-around athletes in the field. To call Izzy a boring fighter would be a disservice to all the technique put forth by the champ, as to this point, every fight he's had in the middleweight division, he's either outclassed his opposition and left them perplexed throughout the fight, or he's called his shot and put them to sleep. Who knows what'll go down Saturday in Izzy's 7th title defense, as Alex Pereira offers the best pure striking ability Izzy has faced to this point in his MMA career. Whether Alex manages to sweep the trilogy, or the last Stylebender rights his wrongs of the past, I'm certain it'll be fireworks, and I can't wait to witness it. I appreciate you if you've made it to this point of the breakdown. I do have a deep love for the sport, and although I have a lot to learn, I thought I'd bring forth my analysis on the champ's game and things to look at during his upcoming fight. I'd love to do more content on the MMA scene, so if you would as well, feel free to leave a like or subscribe, and if you have any input or your own analysis on the game, let me know in the comments. I would love to discuss. Anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Much love.
Jerk off first, then think about it.
100%.
That's what I tell
No,
them.
what's this No Nut November bullshit,
Oh, that's
man?
nonsense.
What?
That's a good way to make
I lost on the first
giant
day.
mistakes.
3 times. Fuck all that, man. I'm buzzing, man.